Hello everybody, my name is David Brown and today I want to talk to you about the educational potential for video games. So, before I talk about the actual research that I found, I want to give you a little bit of background about me. My first gaming console was actually the Atari 2600 and Real Sports Volleyball was my game. Now, from there, I received my first actual Game Boy that was mine to own on my 5th birthday with a few games. And as time went on, I got more and more and more, and then I could buy my own, and I upgraded that. So I kept on getting new game systems and new game systems up until now when I have my Wii U. So my interest has always been there. Now, like I said, I got my Game Boy. The first game I got with it was Tetris, and I played that a lot. For those of you who don't know what it is, with Tetris you basically have random blocks that fall and you have to make straight lines out of them to clear the screen before it fills up and you lose. Very simple idea, but very fun. Now, in school, I had a little bit of access to video games, and in this case, I had the Oregon Trail, which you see on the upper left there, and Number Muncher, which is on the bottom right. I played these games because they were fun, not because I thought they were educational. But in doing so, I really did help learn a lot of skills in resource management with Oregon Trail, and I really cemented my math skills with games like Number Cruncher. From there, I continue to play up until my modern games that I play a lot of. Now on screen here you see a game I play on my Xbox. It's called Terraria. You wouldn't think it has educational potential, but the purpose of this game is to explore and mine and build your own fortress from enemies. So there's a lot of resource management involved in this, and basic survival skills, if you will. Now, throughout high school, I really didn't get a whole lot of access to educational video games. And through college, most of my classes look like this. Now, in doing a lot of the research for today, I found more pictures that look like this. And a lot of information that said there's an increasing number of schools that are using video games to teach. So with that, I thought to myself, can video games be utilized as a positive learning tool? And if so, how are we enriching learning through gaming? So I first wanted to look at some of the statistics, and I found this quote from Michael Gallagher, this president and CEO of the Entertainment Software Association. This really outlines how popular games have been. And if that doesn't do it, there's also some statistics from the Entertainment Software Association and a survey they did last year. In it, they said that most U.S. households have at least one game console, PC, or smartphone in them. 49% of U.S. households own a dedicated gaming console, and those that are in that percentage own on average two. They also found that the average age of a gamer is 30, and the average age of somebody who buys games is 34. So that number is drastically higher than we originally thought, but it also shows the reach of video games. So, with that being said, we can really look at some of the actual research that's been done. Now, if we look at this man here, Kurt Squires, who's pictured, we see he says the following about video games. It says people develop academic interests and learn academic content through games. It says the games are engaging, so that's one easy way to keep people interested in your source material. He further says that games are emblematic of a shift towards a participatory culture because there's so many multiplayer games out there that force you to participate with somebody else in order to move forward. Finally, he said the games are aesthetically enlivening. You get something out of them, otherwise you wouldn't play them. Now, if we look at the next bit of research here from Shala and his associate, we find that he says games can support strategic thinking, planning, communication. They can enhance negotiation skills, group decision making, and data handling. And if we look at Professor Gross and his research, he says that the educational properties of digital games are user-centered and that they can promote challenges as well as cooperation, engagement, and development of problem-solving strategies. So these are some of the opinions of experts. What about the research? Well, first we'll look at some research done by Panatsopoulos and Sampson, who studied 59 13 to 14-year-olds via questionnaires, post-tests, and worksheets in order to utilize the game you see here, The Sims 2 Open for Business. And they wanted to see if this game could help them achieve educational objectives in math classes. Now, in order to do that, they let one group play this game for a few hours, and the other group got lectured in a classroom. At the end of it all, they tested them, and they found that there was a nice collaboration between test results, regardless of how they were taught. And this really shows us that there's some good use for games there, and that they have the same results as traditional education. Now, if we look further into it and some of the student opinions, they say that students found it interesting and they thought it was as good as traditional methods for teaching. If we look further to Moshirnia and his studies with Civilization 4 on the PC, he studies a modified version that was used to teach history to a group of 6th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders who were tested on the American Revolution via 20 short answer questions. He split them up into two groups, the first of which got 3 hours of game time, the second of which had that amount of lecture time. At the end they were tested, like I said, and it was found that the students who played the game had a better grasp on the concepts, not necessarily the dates, than those who were in the classroom. There was also opinions taken that showed that students thought the game taught these things quite well, but they would have preferred notes in a classroom when it came to specifics such as dates. The sample size may be small, but this is still some good note right here. If we look finally to some research done by Stoll and Shelton, they looked at how difficult it would be to take an open source game, in this case Quake 3, and modify it into a game about poetry. As you can see on screen, the game is Voices of Spoon River 3D. Now, to do this, they described taking a bunch of the parts of Quake 3 that worked and enhancing them. But they also talked about the difficulties that came with modifying things they didn't have, such as character models and dialogue. They said that it was an interesting process because they got to see the community at work in helping them. They also said open source game engines have great potential for instruction as long as those who use them continue to push the technological capabilities to their limits. So there's a lot of possibility here that they found. So how do we sum this all up? Well, games have evolved a lot in the past 30 years, as have the ways that we can utilize them. 30 years ago, you'd be playing a game like Civilization, which you see on the left there, by yourself. You'd learn, but you'd be learning by yourself. Now we have games like Minecraft and Terraria that allow you to play with others. So there's collaboration, and you can all work off of each other. So, with that being said, there is a lot of potential for video games, and it can enhance a lot of the critical thinking that happens because it places players in actual situations and forces them to think through stuff rather than just repeat notes. So if we can utilize this potential, we can enhance learning and make everything fun again. So with that being said, I want to thank you all for listening to me, and if you want to learn anything else, please feel free to visit any of my sources. I thank you for listening. Have a good day.